apply those in many different ways. So I think that just through learning, the skills of how to like become your own boss, you can also through a problem-solving framework. I mean, I honestly believe you don't need to come up with any new ideas. There are tons of problems to be solved, and just coming up with solutions for those more than enough. So that would be kind of my one thing to say is just like if you tell, or not tell students, but if you give them an opportunity to say, what problems will you face, what problems will your friends face, what problems do you see in the world, and come up with the tools and skill sets to solve those, I think you'll learn the things you need to learn through that lens of entrepreneurship. That's one thing.
And I totally agree with Mike. Oh, sorry, hand raised. But only because if we're going to be innovative, the tools and models have to be easy to use, accessible, low cost. So there's ways in which the education, I think, gap really widens. So how we're going to decrease that growing gap. And I really feel like there are opportunities, but we have to properly train people and get access to these tools. But it's dependent on like what tools are we offering to those SMEs.
Bouncing off what you said, somewhat disagree just because of my background. I don't think everyone's necessarily, not everyone can be their own boss. That's just the reality. That you have to learn characters to how to be a great employee as well and be great at what you're doing. Whether, I think this whole idea of everyone needs to be their own boss has caused a lot of the problems that I see in my customers and clients that are not really, I just don't think that's the necessary route of coaching.
Oh yeah, that's not what I was saying. I was saying you can learn those skills and you can be a great employee. Code Academy. We're not saying everyone who does our program should start their own company, build their own business, but with those skills, you can be entrepreneurial within an organization. So like learning those skills are not like just set and just kind of like okay, you got to do your own thing. Obviously, entrepreneurship is not glamorous. I can attest to that person. So I spent enough time not paying rent and not being excited about what I was doing. But having a passion and having that persistence to keep going, I think those are two qualities that everyone should have, whether you're an employee or whether you're a co-founder. So I think providing that framework and going through that lens will definitely be more positive than have the skills to know that if there's no opportunity for you, you have the skills to create your own opportunity. So I think that's the best.
That is happening in some schools. Chicago gets like 2 years of classes on entrepreneurship. I'm trying to encourage them. So it's a lot of kids are going to end up at McDonald's and Burger King, places like that. They teach you business, they teach you entrepreneurship, they don't teach you how to organize unions. The best way they're going to increase their salaries and the way to do that is to teach them about organizing.
One of the other things that I'm looking at is who are some of the untapped resources that are potential teachers as well. I had Dave Eggers has this design of tutoring where it's just people, they come to a tutoring center and it's writers actually who are doing some of the teaching and all. But if you combine that with an online source, right now one of the biggest resources for teachers of any subjects is the baby boomer generation that's retired. How can we put them in touch with students as tutors of those students? One of the ways we can do that is through online connections. That's a huge resource. We all often think about the boomers being people who are disconnected, but an awful lot of them are connected. I was in a community on the south side recently where one of the kids was going to a grandparents and working for them. And so we match up those kind of resources and expand our ability to teach and then also just keep people connected, generations.
One thing missing is that what I see is that intellectual curiosity is just not being fostered.
Whether it's through entrepreneurship, tech training, through fashion, creativity, arts, or whatever it might be. The biggest challenge I see is how do we stimulate students to want to find out information on their own? There's tons of tools
curiosity
online. There's tons of different resources. You want to learn anything, you can go online on YouTube and see a video. But how do we get the students to say, you know what, this is interesting to me. I'm going to spend 10 hours extra a week actually learning this stuff. And I think that whether it's entrepreneurship or whether it's financial services, I think that's the big thing that's, I guess, underrated in what is taking place.
Yeah.
That's true. When we have summer interns, it takes us 3 or 4 weeks to untrain them. Every time we try to teach them something, they immediately assume there's some answer they should know. And to take the initiative and learn it on their own takes a long time. It takes 3 or 4 weeks of having 4 days a week before they understand that there's no one right answer every time that get you to start examining big problems. It's the way we teach in public schools. It's a very long conversation, but it's not. We're sacrificing the vast majority of inner city high school kids to the little small minority that's going to college. And in that small minority, most of them are not going to get out of college. So we lose 90-95% of the kids. We're not training them. They're not employable right out of high school.
It seems like to me, like design and sales and marketing is really the challenge, like to connect to those kids that you're talking about that don't care about going in whatever direction that we're going, whether it's tech or finance or whatever it is. Like there's that other path that they don't consider. So I'm wondering, does anybody have an example or other models that are being created now or projects that are started to figure out how to design basically an advertising campaign that connects to those kids in a better way? I mean, clearly whatever's out there now, like whatever attracts people to technology isn't working. It's not attractive to those kids and understand. So how do you But where, what is the background of the students?
Almost about 80% from many typical students, an hour and a quarter each way.
Sorry to interrupt. And we can see exactly the proposals that come into play and vote on it. It could be like apps for Metro Chicago. You can vote and have a little process around it, build awareness and buzz. Great for the school, great for the startup, great for the people involved. And then from that, you're able to select the best of the best, have a voting process, be very distributed about the way it gets implemented, and then that's something that helps further that mission. And then you get people thinking innovatively. So you get someone like Kevin who talks about wanting to do budgeting, financial literacy, and all those other things. Maybe he says, well, this is worth my time to try to put together a group of 3 or 4 people that I work with to be able to offer my time. Maybe we don't have a formal organization and we don't have any means to try to offer this over 20 different districts, but over a set of 3 or 4 different districts, we think we can be able to do it for this price point. I just think that level of transparency makes it easy for me to say, all right, let's go apply, let's give our best pitch, we have a demo day, whatever, we talk about what we've done before. I don't know, that just seems to me to be very straightforward and open versus kind of the way I see it, which is the exact opposite. For me, in terms of the schools that we work with, we primarily go after charter schools and suburban districts, which is just easier because I talk to one person, they make the call, and we're in the school, and it's a lot easier. We're working with a lot of schools in Atlanta. I'm starting in the fall, and it was just 2 phone calls, a presentation, and we're in there. And I just don't understand why. In my own city that I've lived my entire life. My grandmother was a school teacher, my mom's a social worker in public schools. Why it's so difficult for me to do something which is free for the school and free for the students. I'm not talking about something where I'm requesting $5,000, $10,000. So that's my frustration is trying to be able to do this as a side project.
It's been the same with us. So we've been able to only get into the school system because we've had advocates and major players connect us to the right people. But even then, even finalizing the contract is so bureaucratic and frustrating for us. And so the quickest way that we've been in presentations meetings were those that were outside of these systems. And so I just wonder, even the way they talk about their budgeting, literally we'll have 10 days to sign the contract, move forward, have enough materials for the entire classrooms at the 3 schools. schools to go and start the program. The problem is that they're still talking about the budget, and they can't make a decision, and it's gone through 2 weeks of them saying, we haven't gotten your invoice, you did get your invoice, but no, this person didn't get the right one. And so it's like these systems that we're working with. So I like the transparency of your idea for the RFP model, but it's dependent on them. It's beholden on them to be in a place where they're like, we have this systematized, we're going to move forward. And I'm like, I wonder if that's ever going to really happen though, with a system like that.
For instance, we're in Accelerate Labs right now. They give X amount of funding for X amount of startups for X amount of term. They have this kind of mentorship. These officers, it's transparent, right? So I, as an individual, feel like I can apply. Whether I can get in or not is, based on, conversations and presentations. But it's just that transparency and say we're cutting a check for $100,000 for 5 startups that end up addressing this particular issue. I don't know. It just seems very straightforward if that's something that's already been allotted.
There's a saying in CPS: if it makes sense, it won't happen. We can't do it. And seriously, that's the attitude that I have gotten, and people directly said that. No, that's too simple. That's too direct. It's not going to happen.
So you might be dealing with one person one week, and then you laid out. You have to find another person.
Yeah.
And that's the frustration of the system, because these are students who need it desperately. But what are some other ways that we can? So how do we then engage them in such a way that it's less dependent on them, but more dependent on us?
And see, that's what we have to think. I think we have to think outside the box in that respect, not depending upon the structure that's there that we know isn't working. If you can't change that, how could we create something that would make an opportunity for best practices? Like, you already know something about how to work the system and get something to work. How can you tell others that and brainstorm about how to do that? So that's a collaboration. If you just help people to understand access, what's the access points? Who are the people of influence that you work with, and how can that be duplicated? Versus trying to change the system, which is been there for so long that it's unchangeable. So you have to find these other portals. But I mean, I'm sure you've learned a lot of different things as to how to do that. So.
That is, I think, with also social services. With Joe giving a talk about purple finder. It's just that in those hierarchical, very broken bureaucratic systems like education and social services, it's totally. Sometimes there is no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
So when you say best practices, I almost want to scoff, because what is a best practice in this space? Because it's literally dependent on your credibility and who you know, and a lot of it is political. And so we're trying to navigate that space too, because we don't need any of that. We just want to provide the tool to help people and get in and get out. You don't
That's
need
why
to
you got in the first place.
Yeah,
right?
we don't need to participate in
Game
any of that political game. Yeah.
So it's just interesting, because I'm thinking, man, should I just do everything in Atlanta, Oakland, and other cities, and just say in Chicago? And that's kind of the frustration. I think that if you just say $200,000 we're going to focus on 15 startups, that's going to encompass these many schools, and maybe one day they bring in entrepreneurship, so that's something we do for 1 year. The next thing is tech entrepreneurship, or it's investing, and really get this real diverse type of integrated education that's not currently there, that it exists in alternative schools. Because if that's, I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing these out there, but that's, that frustration that I have is it's just easier in other places.
Yeah, that's why for us, like Emily and I, we're working in programs where we have to identify, is it the cost benefit of going into a big system like CPS, or working with other private charter school type of, or even out for us, our preference is after school programs. Done and done. Easy, right? And you still target the same students that you would in the CPS schools, but it's just in another context, so it's easier to navigate and then work with the administrators overseeing the program. So it's like, to me, I'm like, how are we going to identify those channels and then change people's behavior? Where, like, what if we did create something, a mechanism or a forum or a pool of people with all these skills and talents, and created such a great brand around it that the CPS administrators were dying to come to us to say, how can we get you in our schools? So for me, it's like that's a move, that's shifting a whole paradigm then, you know? And I feel like it could happen. It just means that everyone here and then some need to be involved in that movement.
Some of the organizations that have been fairly successful have developed relationships directly with the schools, the leadership of the schools. Like LSNA, 40 years ago, they started getting parents, the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, they started getting parents involved. They became the national models and stuff involved in the school. And there was 3 or 4 years of friction between them and the school leadership before there was legitimate friction and doubt and questions on both sides. But eventually they got enough parents involved and parents organized. And they have a program now where parents basically help out in the classrooms, and then some of those parents can go to college, get scholarships to go to college and come back and teach in the class. And there's all kinds of complex problems. The number of times a kid moves from one part of the city to another affects his or her education progress. Every time you move, you got to get to know new kids. You got to figure out where you are in the curriculum. So there's a lot of organizations like that that try to stabilize, build a community around the school so parents don't move. You give them more social support, community, basically family support networks that have been put together that also participates in that. But there's 6 or 7 organizations that I know around the city doing exactly the same thing. They've been working for many, many years. It takes 2 or 3 years to develop those relationships and trust with you and them. Going through the administration is really tough for a variety of reasons. Partly because they've laid so many people off. We were working on projects for like 4 months. We were supposed to have a meeting one morning, and of the 4 people who were supposed to be there, only one showed up. So what happened? Well, the 3 got laid. 3 other people got laid up. They've kept the administration in half in the last 3 years. So there's not much. In some respects, it's made life a lot easier. Instead of dealing with 10 people, you just deal with 1 person. That person's so busy they don't have time.
Or they don't have authority.